Hajin woke up before the sun, just as he had done every day for the past 30 years. The old wooden floors of his farmhouse creaked under his feet as he walked to the kitchen. He made his morning tea and looked out the window at his flower fields, which stretched as far as he could see in the morning mist. The sweet smell of earth and flowers filled his nose as he stepped outside. His boots left marks in the wet grass as he walked to the tool shed. The morning air was cool on his face. Birds were starting to wake up, and their songs mixed with the gentle sound of wind in the trees. Another beautiful morning, he said to himself, picking up his favorite gardening tools. These tools had been in his family for 3 generations. His grandfather had used them, then his father, and now him. The wooden handles were smooth from years of use. Hajin started his daily walk through the fields. Each section had different flowers. There were traditional Korean flowers his grandfather had first planted, bright yellow chrysanthemums, purple asters, and pink azaleas. But Hajin had also planted new types of flowers. He had worked with scientists to create flowers that could grow in very hot or very cold places. As he checked each flower bed, Hajin noticed something was different about the morning light. He looked up at the sky, expecting to see the usual pink and orange sunrise. Instead, he saw something that made him stop and stare. High above his fields, strange lights danced in the mist. They were soft and blue, moving in circles like leaves in the wind. Hajin had never seen anything like it in all his years of farming. The lights seemed to focus on certain parts of his fields, especially where his new types of flowers grew. "Interesting," he said quietly, not feeling scared at all. After so many years of watching things grow and change in his fields, very few things surprised him anymore. He continued his work, but kept watching the lights from the corner of his eye. The lights grew brighter as the sun rose higher. They started to move in new patterns, making shapes that reminded Hajin of the way his flowers opened in the morning. He noticed that whenever the lights passed over his special bioengineered flowers, they would glow slightly brighter. Hajin went about his usual tasks, checking the soil, pulling small weeds, and making sure each flower had enough water. But today felt different. The air seemed to buzz with energy, and his flowers seemed to stand taller than usual. Even his oldest plants, the ones that had been growing for many years, looked more alive. Near noon, Hajin sat on his old wooden bench to eat his lunch. He always ate in the fields, enjoying the company of his flowers. As he opened his lunchbox, the lights in the sky suddenly changed. They grew much brighter and started moving down toward his fields. Hajin watched calmly as the lights came closer. They moved slowly, as if they were being careful not to damage any flowers. The closest light stopped right in front of his bench, hovering at eye level. It pulsed gently, reminding him of how flowers breathe in and out during the day. He noticed that his special flowers were all turning to face the lights, like they do with the sun. But this was different. The flowers were swaying even though there was no wind, and their colors seemed brighter than ever before. As Hajin watched, the light began to take shape. He could see something forming inside it, something that looked almost like a person, but not quite. He stayed seated on his bench, feeling strangely peaceful. After all, anything that showed such care around his flowers couldn't be bad. The shape became clearer, and Hajin realized he was about to meet someone, or something, very different from anyone he had ever known. But just like every other morning in his fields, he was ready to greet whatever the day brought with a calm heart and an open mind. The light in front of Hajin took its final shape. Inside it stood a tall figure with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like morning dew on flower petals. The being stepped forward, and the light around it faded away. "Good morning, flower tender," the being said in perfect Korean. Its voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Ambassador Raisu. We have traveled very far to meet you." Hajin nodded politely, just as he would greet any visitor to his farm. "Welcome to my garden. Would you like some tea?" He held up his thermos, showing no surprise at meeting an alien who spoke his language. More lights descended from the sky, each one revealing another visitor. They all had the same silvery skin as Raisu, but their heights and shapes were different. One of them, shorter than the others, stepped forward quickly with obvious excitement. "I am Yumma, chief plant scientist," she said, her eyes moving from flower to flower. "Your flowers, they are amazing. The harmony they create, it's exactly what we've been searching for." He-Jin poured tea into cups for his visitors. "Harmony?" he asked, watching as they carefully accepted the cups with their long, delicate fingers. Raisu sat down on the bench beside He-Jin. "Our people have a problem," the ambassador explained. "We feel emotions very strongly, especially anger. Sometimes, these feelings cause wars between our cities. But your flowers," Raisu pointed to a patch of blue blossoms He-Jin had created himself. "They make music we cannot hear, but our hearts can feel. This music calms our anger." Youngmei was already kneeling by the flowers, using strange silver tools to take measurements. "The combination of Earth's soil, your traditional growing methods, and your new flower types has created something unique in the galaxy," she said. "We detected these harmonies from our home world, millions of light years away." He-Jin sipped his tea thoughtfully. "My grandfather always said flowers sing to those who listen," he said. "He taught me that every plant has its own song, if you take care of it properly." The other visitors spread out through his fields, moving carefully between the rows of flowers. They used their tools to study different plants, but they were gentle, never breaking a single stem or leaf. "We would like to learn from you," Raisu said, "both your traditional methods and your new developments. The peace these flowers bring could help not just our people, but many species across the galaxy." He-Jin watched Youngmei as she studied his special blue flowers. Her face showed the same joy he felt every morning when he walked through his fields. "Knowledge should be shared," he said, "just as flowers share their beauty with everyone who passes by." "You would help us?" Raisu asked, sounding surprised at how easy this was. He-Jin smiled. "Of course. But first, let me show you how to properly care for these flowers. Everything begins with understanding the soil." He stood up and walked to a nearby flower bed, picking up his old trowel. Youngmei hurried over to watch as He-Jin began to demonstrate how to check the soil's health. The other visitors gathered around too, their silver tools forgotten as they watched his simple but effective methods. As He-Jin taught his first lesson to his alien visitors, he noticed something interesting. The lights in the sky had formed a gentle pattern, moving in rhythm with his movements as he worked the soil. It reminded him of how his flowers danced in the breeze. Perhaps, he thought, his grandfather was right. Everything in nature was connected by music, even across the stars. At that moment, He-Jin knew his quiet life had changed forever. But as he looked at his new students' eager faces, he felt at peace. After all, teaching others to grow flowers was just another way of spreading beauty in the universe. 1 month had passed since the aliens first arrived at He-Jin's farm. The morning sun rose over a field that was changing in wonderful ways. He-Jin and Youngmei worked side by side, tending to new rows of experimental flowers. "The soil must be mixed just right," He-Jin explained as he showed Youngmei how to blend earth soil with samples from her world. "Too much of either type, and the flowers will not grow strong." He demonstrated the proper way to crumble the soil between his fingers, testing its texture. Youngmei copied his movements carefully. Her silver hands moved with precision as she learned the ancient farming techniques. "Our scientists tried to grow earth flowers in laboratories," she said, "but they never succeeded. Now I understand why. They missed the farmer's touch." He-Jin nodded as he planted a row of seedlings. These were special flowers he had created by carefully mixing earth flowers with seeds Youngmei had brought from her world. The new plants had petals that shimmered like starlight, but grew strong like traditional Korean flowers. "My grandfather always said that plants can feel the difference between caring hands and mechanical ones," He-Jin said. He gently patted the soil around each seedling. "They know when someone takes time to understand them." In another part of the field, strange devices that young Mai had brought measured the harmonies coming from the flowers. The machine showed waves of peaceful energy spreading from the plants. These waves were invisible to human eyes, but made the aliens feel calm and happy. The harmony is stronger when we grow them your way, young Mai said, checking the readings. Much stronger than anything we created in our laboratories. She looked at Hu Jin with respect. Your family's wisdom has achieved what our advanced technology could not. As they worked, more alien ships arrived in the sky. Each one carried representatives from different worlds who had heard about the peaceful flowers. They came to learn, bringing their own plants and farming methods to share. Hu Jin created a special section in his field for each visiting species. He taught them all the same way his grandfather had taught him, with patience, care, and respect for the earth. The aliens learned that growing things took time and could not be rushed. Yummi helped translate when needed, but Hu Jin found that showing was often better than telling. The aliens watched how he cared for the plants and copied his gentle movements. Soon, flowers from 100 different worlds grew together in his fields. One afternoon, as Hu Jin and young Mei checked on their newest plants, they made an amazing discovery. The mixed flowers had started creating new harmonies, ones that no one had heard before. The combined songs of earth flowers and alien plants made something entirely new. Look at this reading, young Mai said excitedly, showing Hu Jin her instruments. The peaceful energy is spreading further than ever. It's reaching into space. Her silver skin glowed with joy. Other worlds can feel it. They're already sending messages asking to learn from us. Hu Jin stood in his field, looking at all the different flowers growing together. Earth roses bloomed next to star-shaped flowers from distant planets. Plants that normally grew on ice planets thrived beside desert blooms. Each one was different, but together they made something beautiful. Perhaps, Hu Jin said quietly, this is what my grandfather meant when he said every flower has a purpose. They were waiting to sing together. He touched a shimmering petal gently. We just needed to help them find each other. Yummi nodded, understanding. The universal garden was more than just a place where different plants grew. It was becoming a symbol of how beauty and peace could spread across the stars, one flower at a time. The small farmhouse that had once been so quiet was now filled with visitors from across the galaxy. Hu Jin had turned his old barn into a meeting room where alien representatives gathered to discuss the flower program. Today, the room was especially crowded. Ambassador Raisu stood at the front of the room, speaking to the gathered aliens. Thanks to Hu Jin's methods, we have successfully grown peace-bringing flowers on 3 different worlds, she announced. The aliens murmured with approval, their silver skin glowing with different colors to show their happiness. Young Mei sat next to Hu Jin, helping him understand the technical parts of the discussion. She had created a special way to pack the flowers for space travel that kept their special properties intact. The flowers must be wrapped in special leaves from your night-blooming plants, she explained to the group. These leaves protect the flower's harmony during long journeys through space. Hu Jin listened quietly, feeling proud but humble. He remembered how his grandfather had wrapped special flowers in banana leaves to keep them fresh for the market. Some wisdom, it seemed, was truly universal. A tall alien with rainbow-colored skin stepped forward. My people live on a world with 3 suns, she said. We thought nothing could grow in our harsh light. But Hu Jin's methods have helped us create gardens that survive and spread peace through our cities. Another alien, small and shaped like a tree, spoke next. The song of these flowers has stopped a war on our planet, he said. 2 groups that fought for 1,000 years now work together in the gardens. We want to learn more. Hu Jin stood up slowly. Everyone in the room fell silent, waiting to hear what he would say. He spoke in his usual calm way, with young me translating his words into the universal language. Growing flowers is like making peace, he said. You cannot force either one. You must prepare the soil carefully, plant the seeds at the right time, and tend them with patience. Some days will bring storms, other days will bring sun. But if you keep caring for your garden, it will bloom. The aliens nodded, understanding his simple wisdom. Many of them had already learned that quick solutions rarely lasted. He-Jin's slow, careful way of doing things created stronger results. Mei added some exciting news. "We have created a way to send He-Jin's teachings to other worlds," she said, using special recording devices that capture not just words and pictures, but also the feeling of working with the soil. New farmers can learn as if He-Jin himself is teaching them. The meeting room filled with happy sounds as the aliens discussed this news. He-Jin looked out the window at his fields, where flowers from 100 worlds now grew together. Alien apprentices worked carefully between the rows, learning the old ways of caring for growing things. He saw how each alien brought their own special knowledge to the garden. Some knew about stars and weather patterns. Others understood how different soils work together. By sharing what they knew, they made everything grow better. As the meeting ended, He-Jin walked out to his fields. The setting sun made the alien flowers glow with beautiful colors. The harmony they created was stronger than ever, spreading peace across his farm and out into the stars. He smiled, thinking about how his grandfather would have loved to see this. The old farmer had always said that every flower had a purpose. Now these flowers were helping to bring peace to the whole galaxy, one garden at a time. The peaceful morning at He-Jin's farm was interrupted by the sound of hovering vehicles approaching. A fleet of sleek corporate ships landed at the edge of his fields. Men and women in expensive business suits stepped out, led by the CEO of Global Agricultural Industries. He-Jin stood calmly in his fields, watching as the corporate group approached. Mei stood beside him, her silver skin reflecting worry. The CEO, a tall woman in a black suit, walked directly to them. "Mr. He-Jin," she said, "I am Director Park. We have a proposal for you. Our company wants to industrialize your farming methods. We can build automated systems to grow your special flowers on a massive scale. Think of the profit potential." He-Jin looked at his fields, where alien apprentices were carefully tending to the plants. Each one moved with practiced care, following the traditional methods he had taught them. "These flowers cannot be rushed," he said quietly. "They need a caring touch to grow properly." Director Park showed him digital presentations on her tablet. "Our machines can copy human movements perfectly. We can program them with your techniques. We could grow millions of flowers instead of just thousands." Mei stepped forward. "The harmony of the flowers comes from more than just physical care," she explained. "Our scientific readings show that the peace-bringing properties are stronger when the plants are tended by living beings who understand them." At that moment, Taiwan, the local government representative, arrived. He had been helping protect He-Jin's traditional farming rights. "This farm is now classified as a universal heritage site," he announced. "No industrial development can take place here without international approval." Director Park frowned. "But the potential benefits to humanity are already being realized," Taiwan interrupted politely. He gestured to the fields where humans and aliens work together. "This farm has brought more benefits through peaceful cooperation than mass production ever could." He-Jin walked to a nearby flower bed and knelt down. He picked up a handful of soil, letting it fall through his fingers. "Please," he said to Director Park, "come and feel the soil yourself." The CEO hesitated, then knelt down beside him. He-Jin showed her how to properly test the soil's quality with her hands. As she touched the earth, something changed in her expression. "The soil is alive," she said, sounding surprised. "I can feel it." "Yes," He-Jin said. "Everything here is connected. The soil, the flowers, the farmers, even the harmony they create. Machines cannot feel these connections." Mei's instruments began recording unusual readings. "The flowers are responding to this moment," she said. "Their peaceful harmony is stronger than ever." Director Park stood up slowly, brushing the soil from her hands. She looked around the farm with new understanding. The alien apprentices had gathered nearby, watching quietly. Each one held farming tools similar to He-Jin's, worn smooth with careful use. Perhaps, Director Park said finally, there are some things that should not be industrialized. Would you be willing to teach our company's farmers your methods? The proper way, with patience and understanding. He-Jin smiled gently. Teaching is better than selling, he said. Knowledge shared with respect grows like well-tended flowers. The corporate ships left that afternoon. But 2 days later, a small group of young farmers from the company arrived, ready to learn the old ways. They joined the aliens in the fields, beginning their training with the most basic lesson: how to listen to the soil. Spring had arrived at He-Jin's farm, bringing new life to the universal garden. The first group of students from the Interstellar Botanical Exchange Program was graduating today. He-Jin watched with pride as Young Mei prepared certificates for each student. These are not just pieces of paper, Young Mei explained to the gathering. Each certificate contains seeds from our universal garden. When planted on your home worlds, they will start new gardens of peace. Her silver skin glowed warmly as she looked at the graduating class. 20 students stood in the field, 5 humans and 15 aliens from different worlds. Each one wore the simple brown farming clothes that He-Jin had given them on their first day. Their hands showed the marks of honest work in the soil. One of the human students, a young woman from Brazil, stepped forward to speak. When I first came here, I thought farming was just about putting seeds in the ground, she said. Now I understand it is about connecting with life itself. A tall alien student with crystal-like skin shared his story next. On my world, we depended on machines for everything, he said. But He-Jin showed us that the touch of caring hands makes plants grow stronger than any machine could. He-Jin walked through the rows of flowers with his students following behind. He stopped at different plots, each one showing the unique ways his students had mixed their homeworld's plants with earth flowers. New colors and shapes bloomed everywhere, creating beautiful harmonies. Each of you has added something special to our garden, He-Jin said, speaking softly as Young Mi translated. You brought plants from your worlds, but more importantly, you brought your understanding and care. Young Mi's instruments recorded the peaceful harmonies coming from the garden. The readings are remarkable, she said. When different plants grow together, tended by people who understand them, the peaceful energy grows stronger. News of the program's success had spread across Earth. Other farmers began opening their fields to alien students. Gardens like He-Jin's were starting in many countries, each one creating its own special harmony. He-Jin's students had learned more than just farming. They had learned to work together, to share knowledge, and to respect different ways of doing things. The Brazilian farmer now understood the crystal alien's special way of singing to plants. The crystal alien had learned earth techniques for natural pest control. Tomorrow, you will return to your worlds, He-Jin said to his students. Remember that growing things takes time and patience. Do not expect perfect gardens right away. Listen to the soil, care for your plants, and share what you know with others. The graduation ceremony ended with each student planting a special flower in He-Jin's garden. These flowers would connect them all, growing and spreading harmony even when they were far apart. As the sun set, He-Jin sat on his old wooden bench, watching his students share their last meal together in the fields. Their happy voices mixed with the evening song of the flowers. Young Mi sat beside him, her instruments showing waves of peaceful energy spreading up into the stars. Your grandfather would be proud, Young Mi said softly. His wisdom now reaches across the galaxy. He-Jin smiled, touching a nearby flower gently. He always said that everyone can learn from nature, he replied. We just have to take time to listen and understand. The autumn air was crisp and clear on the morning of Earth's first interstellar harvest festival. He-Jin's farm had been transformed for the celebration. Colorful banners floated in the breeze, and the scent of flowers from 100 worlds filled the air. Ambassador Raisu stood at the entrance, greeting representatives from different planets as they arrived. Each group brought special plants from their homeworld to add to the display. Young Mi helped organize the presentations, her silver skin glowing with excitement. This is more than just a festival, young Mai explained to the gathered crowd. Today we celebrate how the simple act of growing flowers has brought peace to many worlds. She gestured to the massive display of plants behind her, each one labeled with its planet of origin and its special properties. Hejin walked through the festival grounds, stopping to admire each display. There were flowers that glowed like starlight, plants that changed colors with the movement of nearby people, and blossoms that created rainbow patterns in the air when they opened. A group of children, both human and alien, followed Hejin as he walked. They asked questions about each plant, and he answered with patience. Every flower has a story, he told them. When we learn these stories, we understand each other better. In the center of the festival, a special garden showed how earth flowers had been successfully grown on other worlds. Pictures and recordings played on screens, showing peaceful gardens flourishing on distant planets. Each garden used Hejin's methods, adapted for different environments. 6 months ago, these planets were in conflict, Raisu said during her speech. Now they work together in the gardens. The flowers' harmony has helped them find peace. She turned to Hejin and bowed deeply. One farmer's wisdom has changed the galaxy. The festival included traditional harvest celebrations from many cultures. Human farmers shared their customs with alien visitors. They explained about giving thanks for good harvests and sharing food with neighbors. The aliens shared their own harvest traditions, many of which were surprisingly similar. Yummi's instruments recorded the strongest peaceful harmonies ever measured from the garden. The flowers are singing together, she announced. Each world's plants add their own special notes to the song. As evening approached, Hejin led everyone in a traditional Korean harvest ceremony. He showed them how to give thanks to the earth for its gifts. The aliens joined in, adding their own ways of showing gratitude. The garden seemed to glow with all the positive energy. Look at the sky, someone called out. Above the farm, the lights of hundreds of spacecraft created beautiful patterns, joining in the celebration. The ships moved in harmony with the garden's energy, creating a dance of lights that reflected the peace below. Hejin sat on his familiar wooden bench, watching it all. He remembered how his grandfather used to invite neighbors to celebrate good harvests. Now the whole galaxy had become his neighbors, sharing in the simple joy of growing things together. Your grandfather's farm has become something wonderful, Yummai said, sitting beside him. It is a place where differences become strengths and strangers become friends. Hejin nodded, touching a nearby flower gently. The earth welcomes everyone who tends it with care, he said. Plants do not care what planet you come from. They only care about the kindness in your touch. As night fell, the festival lights twinkled like stars come down to earth. The flowers continued their peaceful song, stronger than ever, reaching out to new worlds that might join in the next harvest celebration. 5 years had passed since the first aliens arrived at Hejin's farm. The small farmhouse had grown into the Interstellar Agricultural Academy, but Hejin still began each day the same way, walking through his fields at dawn, checking the soil with his grandfather's old tools. Today was special. His granddaughter Sunha would graduate from the academy, along with students from 30 different worlds. Hejin watched from his favorite bench as they gathered in the morning light. Sunha stood tall among them, wearing the traditional Korean farming clothes he had given her on her first day. "Grandfather," Sunha called, walking over to join him. "The new seedlings we created are ready to be planted." She held out a tray of tiny plants that sparkled with rainbow colors. These were special flowers that combined the best qualities of Earth and alien species. Yummi appeared beside them, her silver skin shimmering in the morning sun. Over the years, she had become like family. "The harmony readings from these new flowers are extraordinary," she said, showing them her instruments. "They create peace even faster than the original ones." Hejin smiled at his granddaughter. "You have learned well," he said. "You understand that new things can grow strong when they're rooted in old wisdom." He looked at the academy buildings beyond his fields, where students learned to blend traditional farming with modern science. The morning's graduation ceremony was simple but meaningful. Each student demonstrated their special project, new types of flowers they had created, improved growing methods, or ways to help plants survive on different worlds. Sunha's project combined everything she had learned. She had created gardens that could float in space, traveling between planets and spreading peace wherever they went. The flowers become stronger when they travel, she explained, just like people do when they learn about other worlds. Ambassador Raisu, who had first visited the farm 5 years ago, stood to speak. When we came to Earth, we hoped to find flowers that could bring peace, she said. Instead, we found something more valuable. We found wisdom about how all living things are connected. Young Mei shared the latest scientific findings. The peaceful harmonies from Heijin's farm now reached further into space than ever before. Other farms like his had opened on hundreds of worlds. Each one added its own special song to the universal garden. Heijin looked at his students with pride. Some had scales instead of skin, others glowed like starlight, but all of them understood the importance of caring for growing things. They had learned that patience and kindness could solve problems that force could not. Remember, he told them, a garden is never finished. It grows and changes every day. Your job is to help it grow in good ways. The students nodded, understanding that he was talking about more than just plants. After the ceremony, Heijin walked through his fields one last time that day. The setting sun made the flowers glow with beautiful colors. Sunha and Young Mei walked with him, talking about plans for the Academy's future. Grandfather, Sunha asked, did you ever imagine your farm would become something this important? Heijin stopped to touch a flower gently. My grandfather always said that good things grow from small seeds, he answered. He taught me to plant with hope and tend with care. The rest, he smiled, looking up at the stars appearing in the evening sky. The rest grows on its own, in ways we can never imagine. The peaceful song of the flowers filled the air as darkness fell. But it wasn't really darkness anymore. The light of 1,000 different worlds now shone down on Heijin's farm, each one carrying his simple wisdom further into the stars.